Hey. Welcome, everybody. I am Keedron.
And I'm Katura, and we are the
Yeah,
Bostons.
Boston's.
It's great to see y'all tonight. Happy
Yes.
Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Listen, y'all let us know in the chat how y'all doing, how things are going. We're super excited about this episode today.
Yeah, we are.
Listen, what are we talking about today? What are we talking about today?
We're talking about parenting styles. And from the caption, you can see we asked the question, who raised you?
Who raised you?
Because we want to get into different parenting styles and just the overall experience of parenting. And for some of you who don't have children, it'll be your experience being parented.
Yeah, parenting. Yeah. So in the comments, we would love for you to just put in who raised you. It's mom, dad, single parent mom, single dad, grandparents.
Yeah.
Put that in the chat. Let's just, we like to kind of see where that what that looks like for our listeners, for our family.
Right.
So we'll appreciate that. Yeah. So that'd be great. So I want to ask you, Katura.
Yeah.
Who raised you, girl?
So many people raised me at different seasons of my life.
Okay.
Right. So I initially began with both my parents in the home, my mom and my dad. And throughout the time of them raising me, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with my great aunts, my great aunt Dolores, my great aunt Shirley, my grandma Rebecca, and Grandpa Garland. So those are the cluster of people who initially raised me. Now later on, when I was about 7 to 8 years old, my family moved away from the family who raised me, and it was just my mom and my dad. And then by the age of 11, it was just my mom.
Okay.
So lots of phases of influences there.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can dig it.
What about you?
So for me, the beginning part of my life, from the age of newborn to about 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
My mom, was a single parent mother.
Right.
Of course, she a single parent mother. She was a single mother.
Yeah.
Raised me and my sister and my younger brother. But also we had, before we moved to Colorado, we had uncles and aunts, and then I had a great cousin, Melvin.
So do you say they helped raise you or like influenced some of your upbringing?
I think it was a part of even raising me too, because there were small lessons that I actually learned from each of them. That's a good question. Because even Uncle Burnett, which was my grandmother's brother, Uncle Babette, Uncle Burnett, he actually lived with us for a little bit, lived with my mom. And so he was there. He used to walk me to school, preschool, or walk to school with me.
I love that.
Uncle Burnett, I remember him being there in my life to, he had my back. He was crazy. You know what I mean? He was wild. But I still felt safe.
Yeah.
I felt like if I was with Uncle Burnett, everything's gonna be good.
That's good. That's important.
Yeah, and then Uncle Melvin, was our cousin. He's my great cousin. But Uncle Melvin, actually, he was staying with us sometimes too. So they would help my mom when she would go work, whether she was cutting grass, she was doing whatever she was doing.
Right.
And then my mother met my pops. Now my pops, Nathaniel, love you, man. And of course they got together, and 35 years later
they still
together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for the first part of my life, it was just my mom, some family members, and then when she got into a real strong, serious relationship, then that started to shape my life and childhood in a different way. Yeah. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So we're talking about parenting styles because some of you may be getting to know us for the first time. And if you are watching us on YouTube or from the Facebook group or just from our personal Facebook pages, welcome. But we do know that many of you are just getting to know us. So we do have a Facebook user on here. I'm sorry we can't see your name. The platform that we're using doesn't always show us that. But we have someone who has shared that they were raised in a single parent mother home. And so we're just addressing kind of some of the ways we raised and some of what that looked like, because we want to get into some deeper conversation about parenting styles for those of who are parents, and just a little bit of reflective conversation for those of you who are not. Now, as you can hear from our testimony on who helped influence us being raised, right, and who helped influence our parents, those were other relatives. So you might be another relative in your family that pours into and sows into the upbringing of a young person that you care about. So you might be an aunt or an uncle, or a sibling, an older sibling that has taken a pivotal role in the upbringing of a young person. You may be a foster parent. We have some foster parents out there, or those who were fostered, right, or adopted. And so there's just a lot of different influences that come with that. We want to talk about this specifically because we are parents. We have 4 children. We met in high school, and we have 4 children. 2 are in college. We have a 24-year-old, a almost 21-year-old. She'll be 21 next week. We have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. And when we think about our overall parenting styles, while they're different, they seem to complement each other, and they serve our kids, I think, pretty well. And at some point, we do want to have a live where we bring them on to kind of talk about some of their experience and some of their thoughts about what the family dynamic is like. But we do know that we are the sum of many influences as we were brought up. And we know that we're giving them, a variety of influences just through our parents, just by sheer virtue that we're 2 different people. We have 2 different upbringings, not so polar opposite that we couldn't agree on child rearing, but it's just different. And so because our kids are different and we're different, they've gotten some different experiences. But parenting styles, we learned today, hearing a doctor who studies parenting, right? This gentleman, and I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry, but they're doing research and have found that there's over 20 different styles of parenting. And here's the thing, you don't have to identify with one single style or type of parenting. The truth is that we're a lot of different things in a lot of different seasons. We parent with a lot of different styles for different children. And there are a lot of different circumstances that impact that. So this is not a right or wrong way to parent. We're just talking about the overall experiences of being raised and what we bring to our children and what our hope is. So if anything, we pray that you walk away with just kind of reflecting on some things about how you were raised, how you are raising your children, and just some thoughts on how that's impacted you as a person. Because we know that the accumulation of those experiences kind of make us who we are.
That's true. Right? No, that's perfectly said. And so, of course.
Don't get to flirt with me.
No, for real. I was looking at your eyes right now. I was like, anyway,
Look, we got company.
That's all right. But no, what you're saying is really good, and I think that really kind of is a great segue to the first question. Now, if you, for those of you who are, once again, thank you all for those who have joined our Facebook group, Talking with the Bostons. It's filling up.
Y'all really, family now.
Goodness,
Come on, play
locking in, and that's a great place for us to really conversate, to begin to have some dialogue about topics that we'll discuss, some things that may be where we can dive deeper in there. So thank y'all for connecting with us on there. But one of the questions that we put on all platforms, even in the caption, was here's one right here. The question was, how has the way you have been parented impacted you as a person? And so
that's a good one.
I think we should start with us. Of course, y'all can put that in the chat. We'd love to see that in the comments and things like that, and we'll be able to talk about those later. But
very good.
What do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel like the way that you've been parented? How has that impacted you as a person?
Can I be real raw and transparent, like we promised?
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Okay. So, in general, growing up, I remember waking up mornings at my grandma's house because there were days of the week where like my parents were working or doing whatever. And, being woken up by my grandmother. I woke up first every day. I had some cousins that were my male cousins, but my grandma would wake me up before everybody, get me to the table and fix cereal for me. So in my image, like that was the morning routine. That's how things went. So that shaped a part of who I am about starting my day. It was pleasant. It was calm. It was clean. It was just a lovely way to wake up. And then when I was with my mom, full time, as time kind of progressed, she had a hustle and bustle life. She was a young parent and taking care of me and working. And so those were mornings that started really early and us getting up on getting on a bus or a train, or sometimes both, to get across town to the relative that was going to watch me for the day.
Yeah.
And I remember there were specific things she would say to me that would kind of frame my mind, things that I've never forgotten. And she would say, make sure you behave, make sure you use good manners, make sure you listen. And part of that, I know now, she was really trying to, let me know, like, hey, I need the help right now, with watching you. So, please be on your best behavior, because I'm counting on someone else that I trust to look after you. And my mom was very protective. So the aunts that I took turns staying with when it wasn't my grandmother were her two aunts.
Okay.
They were either my Aunt Dolores or my Aunt Shirley. And my Aunt Dolores had all girls. They were older girls, so they all kind of looked after me a little bit too. And then I had my Aunt Shirley, who did not have children in the home, but she had a dog named Sheba, and that was also a fun place to be. But I remember her being very specific. There were specific people that I could spend time with, and there were specific people that she did not want me exposed to either. So I don't know if any of y'all can relate to that, but she was very clear with me at a young age. Safety was a priority, so that was always in my mind. Like, make sure your kids are some place where they feel safe and you feel safe with them when they are out of your care.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. And I understood the value of having multiple influences. And I understood that everybody has something to impart. But this was my grandmother and my two great aunts only. That's where it stopped. So I didn't get a lot of twists and turns when it came to values and morals. And they even probably taught me more at that time about like church and, praying, saying grace, gratitude. My aunts were the ones who taught me, like, don't put your elbows on the table, sit up straight, don't chew and talk with food in your mouth. I learned that being with my grandparents and my older aunts. So then as time went on, when it was my mom and my dad, when we moved away, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York, and the Bronx. That's where my family's from. And so when we moved, the first place we moved to when we left New York was Kentucky, and it was just my parents. And at that point, my village became just my parents. It became just my parents. And because my dad was in the military, he was immediately, like, once they moved him, they deployed him almost, maybe a month or two after that.
Wow.
So once we got housing and on the military base, he was pretty much gone, and he was gone for the year. So my mom now is a young mom. She's away from her family. I'm away from the family that I know. I'm going to a new school. And y'all, we're in Kentucky. From Brooklyn to Kentucky, and we're Caribbean, New York people, and now we're in Kentucky, and it was just a whole different experience. So I watched my mom kind of become a single mom, and then she was pregnant with my brother. That happened almost immediately too. I watched her go through her pregnancy without my dad. Yeah. So I watched different phases of how they had to watch me. So my mom's reign on me got even tighter because it was just us. Yeah. I couldn't spend a night at people's house, It was just different. It was more protective. And I never thought it was overprotective, because I grew up hearing the conversations like, you need to feel safe, and I need to feel safe. And if I don't trust somebody, you can't be in their home.
Yeah.
So all of those things impacted me as a person. They all made me more, when you met me, I was a pretty guarded kind of person, when you met me as a teenage girl, because I had grown up with this sense, like, as a young woman, you've got to be aware, you got to be self-aware, you have to observe things about people, you have to hear what they're not saying, you have to watch what they're doing, you have to look when people don't see you looking, and just kind of know. So there were values put in that have shaped who I am. There was a consciousness and an awareness that made me who I am. And then there was also the traumatic part of later on in that season of us, moving away from all of our family when we went to our next base, which landed us in Texas, and which my parents were going through a divorce at that time. So then my mom was a single parent now for real, and my dad wasn't even close by. So we endured a lot of different things: displacement from our home, not having a stable place to live, not having stability in schools, not having money, my mom figuring out work because she had been, taken care of for quite a few years. Having still, who was like a toddler, my brother was 2 years old. So having a baby and being in a whole nother state. So now we're not just in Kentucky, which is like the southern part, like halfway from New York, but now we're all the way in Texas.
Yeah.
And we were in El Paso. So we were literally like across the country, away from everywhere. And our family dynamic really shifted. So a lot of that part of the trauma of the divorce And not because of anything that my mom did. I think she handled things really, really well, but it was just all of a sudden not having my dad, who I always felt, very connected to and close to. And I was very family oriented,
right,
because I still have really strong memories of being close and having him talk to me and going to the store with him and hanging out. So when that just stopped, it was like we were all divorced.
wow.
So
Yeah.
imagine an adult in encountering that. I really took it that way. I was like, man, like gone, like no phone calls, no letters, no nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
Like cold turkey. Like one day we lived in the same house, and the very next day for forever we did not anymore.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. That's
I'm sorry. I probably cared too much.
No, not at all. I'm just thinking because I've known you for 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
And just, a lot of this stuff I know,
Yeah.
Certain things, that you shared even now, especially, based on the question that we are posing,
Yeah.
is how it impacted you as a person,
right?
Even as an adult, as a woman, as
Yes.
a mother now, of course, but even for those,
Yeah.
even before children, you as a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the different dynamics that have impacted you, but also kind of helped shape your way of
Yeah.
thinking, shape your world, and what your worldview of relationships, of marriage, what it should look like.
Yeah.
That's those dynamics from going to family oriented. You had your great aunts, and you have that old seasoned wisdom, and then
Yes.
your mom and dad, and then now just having mom in a short period of time.
Oh man, this was between like birth and 10 years old. And that can feel like a large gap, but those are really the formative years
For sure.
of
Yeah.
a young person's life.
Yeah.
And like someone just said, it definitely has taught me to be a better listener.
Yeah.
And children actually do have a voice.
Yeah.
This was a season
Thank you for sharing
where,
that, Kim.
yes,
Yeah,
thank you. This was really a season where it was like, nobody asked me how any of this impacted me. And I can't say whether that was right or wrong, right? I'm gonna be honest. I can't say if it was right or wrong. I'm saying no one actually asked.
Yeah.
So these weren't conversations that as a child I was taught were appropriate to even have or to bring them up first. So these were things that just kind of got stuffed. This feeling of like, I don't have my people, like my favorite people that I know care about me and love me and have poured into me and taken care of me and protected me. They're not there.
Yeah.
And so, and I can't imagine even what that was like for my mom, but even from that perspective, something in me woke up too and it was like, I have to help her. She didn't ask me to help her. She didn't ask me to take on adult roles or to help her with my little brother. It was just something innate inside of me because I was raised seeing that family helps take care of each other.
Yeah.
So it was natural for me to say, I can see that there's a void and I can feel a void and there's an emptiness here. I need to help her with my little brother. I need to help her around the house and not complain about, her working late and me having to, step in and do some chores and different things like that.
No, that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
It definitely sticks with you.
Yeah.
When I think about how I was raised impacted me, I, had a lot of old souls. I had a lot of older elders.
We have that in common. I think that matters.
For sure.
Yeah.
Whereas you had elder women, I had elder men. You know what I mean? Older men that, my Uncle Melvin, Uncle Burnett, my Uncle Ellis, Uncle Rooster. Shout out to Uncle Rooster. Before we moved to Colorado, I had aunts and uncles, and my mom has a big family. We have a really big family. Shout out to the Boston family.
Yes.
Boston Ford family.
A gazillion
all
of them.
Yeah, and then, on top of the Mackey family. Shout out. So we had a lot of family coming and going. We were very kind of like intertwined as far as our lives and experiences and things like that.
Right.
And so, and that was, that was before I turned 6. You know what I mean? I'm 4 or 5 years old up until that point. Then we moved away. Yeah. But I remember having so many experiences with my cousins, around, having crazy experiences with my
same. I love being around my cousins.
Listen, even experiences with my uncles, great uncles, their girlfriends and stuff like that, because they're around while they're watching us, and we're around making mud pies, and and I'm seeing different personalities, and you got people that are real talk, they're drinking, getting drunk, and smoking cigarettes, and just hanging out, having a good time, playing cards, and just kind of living life.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like the kid just in the background. You stay out of grown folks' business, you see what they're doing, but you're seen and not heard.
Right.
Part of the time you're not seen. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So peeking through doors and seeing what's going on.
Right.
But at the same time, I never felt like I wasn't welcome. I just felt like I knew, okay, well, I probably need to move around because I don't want to get in trouble, and this is really none of my business. Stay out of grown folks' business,
Right.
But I always had like a good time. I didn't have anybody that mistreated me. That my mother did a great job of making sure that people who were around weren't mistreating us and acting up. My mama
Very good, yeah.
My mom would, Lord have mercy, she didn't play.
Look.
But neither did my family. Like, we had good people around us. And then when we moved to Colorado, when my mother got into a serious relationship, we moved with my dad's mother and her husband in Colorado Springs. And so we had them for a little bit. But then life was just a little different because my mom was away from her family when we moved from Texas to Colorado. And it was my mom, her new man, and her 3 children. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so we began to build a life with that and that, and my mom and dad, they were working through their just their life, trying to get it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? The struggles that they had, the battles that they had, through their life, they were really working those things out to get better, you know what I'm saying, for themselves. And of course, that came with its challenges on top of, my mom having 3 children,
Right. Because that's a different dynamic. And we don't talk about that enough. Like, blended families, where are y'all at? That's another population too. We talk about foster and adopted, like, and even when we say, and I cut you?
No, go ahead. Yeah,
I feel like I did. I interjected. Let's come back to that. But there's just other dynamics of families too, how those are constructed. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about just in the first 6 years of my life, having so much family, having so many people in my life that kind of impacted me in a good way. Had fun, and it was crazy stuff. I'm like, Lord have mercy, can't believe this happened. And then us getting to a place where my mom is settling down. Yeah. And she's with this young man that loves her and her 3 children. Right. None of them of which are biologically his. Right. Right. And then they're working through their situation. So me watching this and seeing this, you know what I mean? And the great thing I want to mention this is just the thing about it is, even though they had their struggles, what they call it, BC, before Christ, the things that they were going through. I mean, they have an outstanding, like, awesome testimony, just seeing God, like how God changed their lives, what they were doing. Yes, I love my mom and dad. So shout out to Mello and Nathaniel Mackey. I love y'all so much. Pastor Mackey. I love them. But seeing them before God changed their life. Right. You know what I mean? And then
that, I know that has impacted
you. That impacted me, even my faith. Right? My faith, even as I've grown and come to the faith. Yeah. Thinking back how God can change people, seeing what they were doing, seeing how they were treating each other, seeing how they responded, just their lifestyle, right? And then that changing and shifting, that impacted me as a person, because now I'm just like, okay, now I can see that you can work through tough times in a relationship. I see that you can make things work. And there were some values that I learned as far as working hard, loving family, protecting your family, me and my brother and my sister, we had a lot of good times together playing outside. All of us, we could probably say that. If you're 80s baby, 80s, 90s, we were playing outside. Even before then, of course, 70s, that's I'll leave that to y'all. We ain't 70s.
You know where you at.
Yeah, we know, where you at. So shout out to all y'all. Yeah. But either way, like, just that life, being able to have a little bit of freedom when we think about how we were parented, like have a little bit of freedom, but also have guardrails and have boundaries to say, hey, you come back in at this time, hey, you don't go that far right there.
Who
you
had
make
the
sure
street
you
light?
watch your brother and sister. You know what I'm saying? The street lights, if you had that, you did have to come through. Sometimes, you know, that applied to us. Other times we just check in. You know what I'm saying? You had to check in. I don't know, it's like you check in with me. Because if you wanted to stay out all day, you already knew your friends was gonna be out there. Checking in, I knew that I needed to do that. If not, if I didn't check in, I probably wasn't gonna be able to come outside tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? That next day. And so checking in for us was a big thing, but we still had a little bit of leeway to say, hey, go ahead and just have your fun, you know, be safe. This is what to do. This is what not to do. Take care of your little brother, sister, watch after each other. Y'all come back home.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think to kind of put a bow on that, how I was raised, really, I think it was a well-rounded, especially since, you know, I got a chance to see both sides of the fence, you know, with pre-Christian value family, mom and dad, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when they gave their life to Jesus and totally got like surrendered, that was a different type of parenting too.
Right.
That impacted me and added more like really solid core values and spiritual values to who I am right now, faith and trusting God and just prayer, all things like that. So yeah.
I can see that.
I see we got some 70s. Shout out to the 70s babies here. Love you, Miss Desiree.
She said we live by the street lights and drank from the water.
Come on, yeah.
I mean, that was it for me. I had landmarks.
Come on,
don't go past this. I mean, and my mom literally would have a house. You see where that house is, where that blue car's in that driveway. It didn't matter if the blue car moved out that driveway. It was still that house. So recognize that house. Don't go past this block or this street name. And the street lights were definitely, you know, it was an alarm clock.
Yeah.
It let us know. And so if the street lights came on and you were still out, you just better be on your way. Because usually by that time, your mom she was on the porch.
Yeah.
Or sticking her head out the window. She's looking for you.
Where them kids at?
So it was definitely a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think also the other thing that I did not mention, and that you share as far as like core values being instilled, one of the big ones for me was education. And my family culture and education was really big.
Yeah.
I guess that stems from I know that it stems from the fact that my family migrated to New York. So they got there through immigrant status and things like that. And so when they came to New York, one of the first things that they did was like work to pay for others to be able to come over. They bought property, lived together, owned businesses, worked together, sometimes for free, you know, to kind of support the cost of, you know, them supporting each other.
Yeah.
And so it was education. And so everyone had to go to trade school, whether they chose to go to college or not. They had to at least go to trade school. So I remember my Aunt Dolores, her and her sister had to do, my Aunt Dolores and my Aunt Shirley, they're sisters. Those are my great aunts. So my mom's aunt first, but, and then mine second. And they both went to school for like data entry and secretary work. And my Aunt Shirley did accounting and things like that. And that was a trade. And then later on, they decided to go to school for like, I think business and education and different things like that. And they both end up becoming educators. That's also a big part of my family's history. It's education and business. And so they did that. The sons, same things. It was like either go to trade school or go to the military. And there were some very clear paths, but there was always this idea that you needed to have a plan in place. How are you going to be a productive citizen?
Yeah.
And a part of it was during that time, like when I think back in the 40s and the 50s, or even the 30s, you know, them kind of really gaining their footing in that area of New York. It was like there was a reputation to uphold. You couldn't just come and just do nothing. The whole idea of immigration was to come and start a life. And it wasn't just for you. It was about your legacy. It was about your lineage and your family and your future. And so you were very strategic about that. And parents did not shift very much from that. And so the only reason why I think the girls were allowed to get into education was because it was a part of our family legacy. In Barbados, my family also had a finishing school. It was all girls school. And so that was the business side of it. If you're going to do it, own it, you know, really be good at whatever it is that you do. So my aunts, I mean, they worked with me from the age of 3 to 4 years old, you know, on reading, writing, knowing my name, the first couple of Bible scriptures, that all came from them. And this idea of discipline, being taught and being trained in the way of being, ladylike, and how I carried myself.
Yeah, let's like, I don't want to just gloss past that part.
Sure.
The discipline aspect, right? Because we're talking about parenting styles, talking about who raised you, right? I remember, a couple months ago when we were thinking about this, it's not like who raised you in like it can be like who raised you, you know what I'm saying? Or it could be like who raised you, you got your stuff together. But when we think about parenting styles, it's not just about, and I think you were talking about this earlier today, it's not just about the consequences or discipline. Well, it is about discipline, but
not just consequences for bad behavior.
Right. Because we do know that
training overall,
and that's what discipline is. It's teaching and training. Right. Teaching and training.
And the dynamic, being parented is more than just issuing consequences for bad behavior or rewarding positive behavior. There were other dynamics, like I was taught things, I was engaged in conversation, I was asked to help, I was taught how to cook. I was allowed to go on errands with my papa. That's my great grandpa. And
these are life skills.
Yeah, these were life skills.
Life skills that as a kid we may not have realized it, right? And maybe our parents or guardians or family members knew, maybe they were being intentional about a lesson, or bringing us along.
Makes you wonder, maybe they were wise, right? If they weren't just getting us to do things or trying to just put us to work. Because I remember you having some stories about, Keedron has stories about like cutting grass.
Oh yeah, for
when
sure.
He was young.
You cut grass, put that in the comments.
Right, you cut grass, just having another skill.
Yeah.
Now there was a season where his mom even cut grass as a side job.
Oh yeah.
But guess who else? He would say, "Well, I want to go out and make some extra money. Can I borrow the lawnmower and go put some gas in it and cut some yards? And make a little bit of money." So as a young person, it also taught you had to approach people and speak to them and basically engage them in a business opportunity for an exchange.
Negotiate.
This was not goods, but it was a service, and so you're presenting yourself to provide a service for them in exchange for money, and just that confidence. And when we think about some of the things that we were exposed to as a young person, yes, there were consequences for bad behavior, because that's a part of the teaching and the training. That's discipline, that's discipleship, and that's good. And this is not, let's just pause here for a moment. Sometimes when people hear the word discipline, they are immediately triggered to mean abuse. And if that is the context that you have experienced, we just pray that you are healed in the name of Jesus, because there is a difference, and no one should be abused. No one should be mistreated. You should not be made to feel as if you don't matter because you made a mistake. No child, no adult, no human being should feel that way. And we know that comes from, a lot of different things. Sometimes that leg of parenting had some influences that may have contributed to them engaging with you in that way. And that is by no means what we're talking about. But we do know that it exists. We have members of our family who have those stories, and sometimes it has impacted the way they parent or raised us. I know it did in my family. It impacted the way I was raised. And so in all of this we just want to clarify, when we say discipline by definition, and I learned this from my husband, means to teach and to train. And there are many methods to do that. So if you came from a household of spanking or restriction, or having a privilege taken away, or not getting dessert or something like that, that was a variety. Maybe you just had one of those, that was the majority of your experience, or you have multiple, or as a parent, you give multiple, or variety of consequences. Because one thing my husband has also taught me in our relationship, that when we do give consequences, they should be meaningful and they should be logical. Meaningful and logical. So in layman's terms, like let the punishment fit the crime. I think people say it like that, without criminalizing the language, right? But let's be reasonable, let's be rational in how we teach and train and discipline. And it does have to be unique for each one of our children, because we do have 4. And we're all unique in ourselves. So I just want to clarify that before we go deeper into this conversation.
No, that's good, because when we think about it, as parents, sometimes we can get as parents or even as children, if we think back when we, were being raised, sometimes things could go overboard. We did something and you sit on TV, you're grounded for a month, you're grounded for a year, excuse me. And sometimes it warrants that. We've had to issue out a loss of privilege that actually lasted longer than a year, before. And that was something that we decided and we stuck with it, and we stuck, we stuck to the plan, and and that's what it was.
Right.
But sometimes in the moment we can say, this is what I'm going to do because I'm frustrated and I just want you to understand.
Right.
Right. You're going to feel this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really match up to what they did. You know what I mean? And is it really going to help them to be accountable? Or is it just something that they're just going to be upset and resent us for in the long run or throughout the process, which, some stuff we can't help, sometimes our kids just not going to like our decisions, and that's fine. Because they might not like us now, but they'll love us later. There are some things that I didn't like that my mom and them did, when I was a kid, but I love them for it now, which is later. I didn't understand it then, but I'm glad they did certain things and cut off certain relationships that I was, involved with, and made sure, that there was these boundaries, because if they didn't do that, that could have hurt me. They saw things a little bit more clear than I did in those moments. So your kids might not like what you're doing right now, how you're doing it. But if it's something that you're doing truly for the betterment of their life and for their health, mentally, spiritually, physically, socially, emotionally.
Right. Come on.
It don't matter how they feel about you right now. Even though you want the kids to like you,
their feelings are based on how they think and how they process.
Exactly how they process.
And sometimes they're just too immature in that particular season of their lives.
Yeah.
And so my mom used to say this to me. She's like, I can't wait for you to grow up to understand. I can't wait for you to become more mature before you understand. There are some things that I just have to teach you and do or not allow you to do now, because I'm trying to save you from some things. And it taught me that. I said the same things to my kids, and I told them, like, my mom said this, and I understand now that it was true, because when she would say it, I would say, she always says this. What does that even mean? And then when I became a parent, I started saying it. I explained it to my kids because I wanted them to know, like, I understand and I recognize that you don't always understand every decision that I make. And I don't know that you're supposed to. I'm a grown adult. I've been through some things. I've been through some seasons of life and have experienced some consequences and some rewards from behavior. And I know that every decision comes with the cost, and some things come with more than I'm willing to pay. So because you are my child and I see this path, I need to make a decision that I feel is best for you now.
Yeah.
And this is all to say, we do this with the help of the Lord. We're confident that we're anointed to raise our children. They were assigned to us, and we have submitted our parenting to Him. And just like you have to submit your parenting to the Lord. No parent is perfect. No child is perfect, but we are perfect for each other. We're perfect for each other. We are perfectly matched. And so there's a grace that God extends to us for that, when our intentions, and our thoughtfulness, are, I guess, healthy or in place and not an afterthought. So we're not just doing things haphazardly, majority of the time. And again, I say that this is not about deciding whose parenting skill or style is better than another, because the parenting experience is just so much more. And we're talking and going through some of our experiences just to kind of put it out there on the table, that we come from different backgrounds. Some of our upbringing was similar, some of it was different, but we brought us to it. And so our kids get the benefit of that. And we have had the privilege of raising 4 different children. Now, we think 2 of them are similar, and we think another 2 are similar, but they are still, they're still unique little people. And so we have told them this before, like, listen, y'all have one mom to get to know. And maybe I'm still growing and I'm still changing by the grace of God. I'm committed to growing and changing, right? But I'm not evolving at the same pace that I was in my earlier years of parenting them. Meanwhile, they're still growing up. So we say you have one dad that you're getting to know and one mom that you're getting to know, but y'all are changing all the time and it's 4 of you.
Yeah.
So we need to give each other some grace and be fair to one another. Like sometimes we're just not aware. And it's okay to bring to our attention, like, this has changed. I used to not like cheese. Now I like cheese. I used to not like ketchup on my cheeseburger. Now I want ketchup on my cheeseburger, and that's at the low scale. But, there are just some things that we have to be fair and have conversations with our kids about and just kind of adjust and adapt to that, given all that we are. I love that question.
Yeah, no, that's real. I want to say this too, because sometimes the hardest part. No, you good? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The hardest part of parenting sometimes is doing the hard thing. Like, it's actually doing a hard thing because and then recently, like within the last year or so, maybe year and a half, I really did struggle, especially with our youngest daughter, like feeling like I was like, I say doing too much, but like sometimes I would we want our kids to be happy. Like we want them to do stuff. Like I want them to really enjoy their life. But sometimes, the things that they may want to do, because of how they did it, or maybe what they're getting into, like I have to really sit and say, okay, I need to teach them something, right? They need to learn a lesson. Like they need to, like, I want her to be accountable. I want them to be accountable for their actions. But sometimes it's hard to actually implement something that will be good for them. At least for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just be honest,
No,
and so it was like, man, like I don't really want to do a little thing like that, man. I don't really want to,
I don't want to
like that. I don't want to make her cry. I don't want to,
Yeah.
Now don't get me wrong. Like when it comes to clear cut things that, okay, you did this is what needs to happen, right. But sometimes it's been hard to say, this is what I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this away from you, or this is going to happen. And then to keep that, like to stand on that. Like Jessica was saying, like she, saying like, you don't want to speak something and not stand on it, to tell them, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And then you don't do it.
That's right.
Because either way, whether it's something positive or something corrective or to redirect them. And sometimes it can be exhausting to keep up the training. That's really what I want to say. Sometimes it can be like,
that makes sense.
Man, like, they're asking, I remember when I was younger and we would have to go take a nap. I hated taking naps when I did not want to. I used to hate it. And my mom, I would wake up in the middle of the day. It's like I took a nap for an hour and a half and I wake up. I don't know if it's the next day or not. And the way that I felt, and then she's in there watching Midday Lies, you know what I'm saying? AKA soap operas. That's what my mama called them, Midday Lies, as the world turns, right? And I would sometimes when my mom would tell me, go take a nap, I would go in there for about 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm thinking like, man, I need another chance. I'm going to ask for another chance. So now I'm spending 20 minutes going back and forth. Oh, can I have another chance? You know what I'm saying? Can I have another chance? And so as a parent now, wanting to make sure that my kids understand like what they did needs to be redirected and corrected. And if I say it's going to be, this amount of time, or it's going to be this certain thing, that I do need to stick with it, because it's not healthy for me to go back and forth with them. But sometimes it is hard, because I'm like, okay, just go ahead and let them go. Go ahead. Sometimes it's like that, and other times it's like, no, I need to not, because I know there's times you're like, no, it ain't time yet. They need to keep, they ain't learned that yet,
Right.
So sometimes
and it was like that with one of the questions. So Jay asked, what was the situation or circumstance in which one of our kids was grounded for a year? And so it wasn't the grounded for a year, it was a loss of privilege. So we took something that they had and would not allow them to have access to it for a year. And it was a cell phone. So we have very clear rules about technology and device usage in our house. And so after, sharing expectations, after so many warnings about how not to use technology, when that rule was continuously broken and violated, that phone was taken away. And we decided, well, if you can't use it properly now, it could be that maybe it was on us, and maybe you're not old enough, maybe you're not responsible enough or mature enough. And we're gonna create a gap year between you and this thing, and we're gonna explore some other things. So during that time, that child of ours learned other things, other giftings and other skills, and is utterly brilliant, brilliant. And at the end of that year's time, when we said, like, you won't get it back until your next birthday, when their next birthday, before their next birthday came, that's what we did. And we do believe that child learned their lesson, and we had a conversation over the way. So no, it wasn't handled well initially, and it was a hard thing to do, but that child's not the only one. We've had loss of privileges for our oldest son too, and you know, all of the kids have gone through seasons of that.
And sometimes it's not even putting a time on it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like, you know, there are some things where, you know, I learned this later on in parenting, in our parenting journey, you know, to not just say, this is how long it's going to be. For one, you know, as I'm watching, as we're still having the conversation and we're still training about a certain thing, as far as whether it's behavior or whether it's management of a privilege that they have. If it's like, okay, well, you're going to have less of this. I don't know how long it's going to be. But you know, we'll decide when it is, you know what I mean? So sometimes it could be, you know, a couple of days. And then honestly, sometimes I remember taking some little video games, you know, back in the day, and I would forget that I had
and did not return them. They were like,
forgot, but then they forgot too. They forgot too, and it wasn't even but sometimes it'd be like, they forgot too, you know, because it was maybe a second or third time where I was like, I've told you about this situation. And so I would take it and put it up, and we wouldn't even talk about it no more. And then I'll look up and I'm like, oh man, it's been months later. I'm like, hey, you know, here you go.
Or Legos. Somebody had like a case of Legos taken. And at one point I was like, Keisha, get these out of our closet. And I'm like, these have been here forever. And he was like, doggone shame. I need to figure out a way to reincorporate these.
But that was a message. That was a lesson on just, I think it was cleaning up, but also it has something to do with sharing too, or something like that. I don't know. Either way, there were some times where I half forgot, and there were other times we did put clear cut lines, like this is what's going to happen, and this is how long. And other times it's like, we're going to walk through this, and we'll see, and we're going to see what that looks like.
Because sometimes you do really need to see. Some things are more like, I'll be able to tell. Stepped on a Lego one too many times. They were gone. No, it's true. Like, I did this one year too, when our two oldest were sharing a room, and it like weeks had gone by, and I would, you know, maybe once or twice for that couple of weeks each week, I'm like, okay, guys, I need y'all to sort through this stuff, clean up after yourself. I'm tired of coming in here during the day while y'all at school and having to clean up after you. And, you know, wanting things to just be pleasant when they came home. And I'm like, this is not my room, guys. Clean this stuff up. Well, eventually I said by the last time, I said, both of you get your covers. Y'all not sleeping in this room. This is my room. If I have to clean it, it's now my room. So I said, I'm not, and I didn't clean it. I just closed the door and didn't give them access to it. So I said, when it's time, so for the first day, they thought they were camping out. They're like, "Ooh, this is fun. We sleeping out in the hallway, got our blankets and stuffed animals and pillows." I said, enjoy. So you wake up and go brush your teeth, and the natural thing is to try to go in your room and want to hang out. And I'm like, oh no. And this was on a weekend, so it's like, I'm missing something. And so by the second day, I'm like, okay, are we ready to go in here together? Are y'all ready to work together? Get this room cleaned up. Let's organize. And let's take better care of our things. You know? And so I never had to do that again. So it varies. But again, it's based on the situation. And it's, you know, it was based on, for us, and we're not telling anybody how to do it. Clearly, we're not, you know, giving advice or saying what you need to do in your household. We respect that every household and every set of parents and parenting styles are unique. That's the thing that this conversation really wanted to embrace. Right? That we're unique, we have differences, and we do different things, but our experiences also shape how we see and view parenting and how we shape and view our kids. Now, I will say this, Kedron, I may have mentioned this to you before, I'm not too sure, but I remember growing up and like I didn't have a lot of like conversations like with my mom where we were engaging all the time in conversation. But we spoke, we had a good relationship. But my aunts asked me questions all the time and were engaging me in conversation all the time. And so I got that piece of like communication and talking to adults, you know, from my aunts. But my mommy was the one who like always made sure my clothes were cute and my hair was done, and we did little fun things, you know, together. We had a different level of relationship. And so those things, when I was raising my kids, I was kind of like the parent who was like, I was in school and they were in school because I was young parents. I was in college and I was busy. And there was a point where I was like, well, I guess I need to give them kind of both, you know, of what I had. Cause I'm thinking, well, my mom wasn't the one sitting on the ground playing with me all the time, you know, like I had my cousins and stuff to do that with. But I said, but they're not surrounded by that.
Yeah.
So how do I fill in the gap? Because even if it wasn't my mom specifically who did those things, I received them and I benefited from it.
Right.
So now what do I need to do that's a little bit different, you know, in those terms? So I had to adjust as a mom and say, well, maybe I do have to let them bring toys in my room. Like I was never allowed to bring toys in my mom's room. So, but maybe that's something that I have to change and like let them bring a few things in here, even though I'm in here on my computer or I'm trying to do work for school. Maybe I do have to kind of like compromise just a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's not like there was anything wrong, but I saw how I benefited too.
Yeah.
And that also influenced me. It was like, I kind of want my kids to have that, even if I'm just close in proximity.
Yeah. No, I think that's lovely. You know, it's, man, when I think about how long and how many years we've been parenting.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it's been a beautiful journey. Like I was like, we really love our kids. You know what I mean? Like,
and we like them.
We like them.
We like who they're even becoming.
You know, I'm intrigued by these babies, man. Like, you
now,
know,
hold on.
as they have grown, like for real, like, you know, seeing them, you know, from babies to just, you know, adolescents, you know, all of that going into preteens, teenagers, and now we have a couple, you know, that are young adults. I mean, 24, and then our baby girl, our second daughter, our first daughter, Simone, she'll be 21, and you know, 9 days. You know, but just watching them grow, their little personalities, you know, the little crazy stuff, the quirky stuff, the funny stuff, all of that, just embracing that, and then you know, within all of this, really helping to just guide them and make sure that they know that they're loved. Make sure that they know that, you know, they're heard, right? And then making sure that we give them the best of who we are. And so I think that's key, you know, and it's important for, you know, I know you've said this even today, like there's no right or this is no judgment on how you may parent or how you even been parented.
It's just reflective.
It's definitely a way for us to reflect, but also to think about even how we're doing now. Like it's one of those check-in things and think about that. And before we get off today too, we'll talk about a few styles, just at least mention some, because it was interesting to me, like some of the things that we've learned, because you know, we've heard that there's 20, there's more. That somebody said there was hundreds of different parenting styles. If you think about how people do things, but sometimes it's a hybrid. Yes, a combination of things. You take this and I like that. Oh, that right there. We ain't doing that. You know, and you just do what's best for you and your family, because it's not that, oh, this is how I was raised. This is how I raised them, so that's what you need to do.
Right.
Because that's really where conflict comes in. You know.
Yeah, and the difference is not respecting the differences.
Right, and that's the key. Right. Because we're all. Somebody was saying about, well, all of us, we're one of one. Right. Yes. All of us were one of one. Our children are one of one. It's only one of them. Yes, they may have different personality. I mean, some similar personality traits. They get some things from us. They get some things from, you know, grandparents.
It's also interesting.
Very, very interesting. Right.
Yeah.
But they're still unique. Right. And so we have to be unique in how we love them, how we care for them, how we look after them. And I think there are some things that, some overarching things that if we do these things, I think, you know, we'll be okay. And, you know, before we go off, I'll give you all a few of those points to just ponder and think about as we parent and move forward in that way. But yeah,
because I think a big question that we can all ask ourselves, right? Like, we're talking like family, right? Casual conversation. Just think about this, and you can put this in the comment if you want to. But just think about this. What do you want your kids to have? Because I think it becomes less about what you had or didn't have. What do you just want for them?
Yeah, that's good.
Right. What do we just want for them? And that's answering that question. What do we think that they need from us? And are they at an age where we can start asking questions like that? Because there were times when we have asked, like, what do you need from us in this season?
Right.
You know, right now Zion's in football and he has a very busy schedule between training, practices, schoolwork, APs, honors classes, and all that stuff. And he said, I need you guys to help like managing my time and my schedule. Yeah. Zoe's homeschooled now. There's an element of freedom that she needs. There's an element of structure that she needs. And she also wants to do some extracurriculars. She needs balance with that. Symphony needs our moral support as she's adulting. She's in college, and you know, we're her Uber driver most days, you know, and what she needs. But we also help her navigate other big things that she wants to bring to us. We try our best not to superimpose, because she's brilliant, she's lovely, very she's kind, she's thoughtful, you know, and really, so she really, really is. But when she gets stuck, we've built a relationship where she knows that she can talk to us, one of us or both of us. And sometimes when we think a conversation was exclusive to just one of us, she'll be like, oh, did you tell dad? And I'm like, no, I haven't, but I can't. Like, did dad tell you such and such? And I'm like, no, what's going on? And, you know, and so we're learning that the more we lean into them, they lean into us, and they actually teach us how to parent them.
Right. That's good.
So we don't have to look to a book. We don't have to look to the word. You don't even have to look for us. And someone said, these are great, you know, ideas. Thank you. And we're so blessed. Like, we're so blessed to be able to have these conversations with y'all, because we're doing this in real life. Like, you're doing this in real life. Right. Yeah. And so it's important that, you know, we are surrounded. Like, this is our community where we should be able to be honest. And if you can't be honest, just hold tight. Right. We just say hold tight. You don't have to contribute to a conversation that you're not ready to be honest, you know, within. And that's okay. Just glean and observe and see. But we really just wanted to challenge all of our community in this, because when we did our poll, you know, this was one of the highly chosen topics, and we were going to save it. And we thought, you know what? No, let's just dive right into it. Yeah. And let's talk about it in a way that is safe for us as a community, that doesn't single anybody out, single anyone's upbringing out. What I can say is this: God is intentional about you. Ephesians 2:10 is one of the lessons that we're talking about with our Northside Kids and Children's Ministry. And it is about us being God's handiwork. Yeah. We're God's handiwork. And he created us to do good works. Yeah, that's good. Things that he planned in advance. So today I told the kids that just based on the word of God, you were created with a purpose to do something special for God. Not everyone whose alarm clock went off woke up this morning, but you did. True. And so you're somebody's answered prayer. You're somebody's solution to their problem. That's good. And for many of our kids, we're the buffer. We're the difference between who they become, who they're becoming, and who they want to be as they grow up. We're their window to the world. We are the lens in which they will see and shape their worldview about what life looks like and what's true and what's not. And so it's not a job to be taken lightly. Right. But you as a parent, everything you need to raise your children is inside of you. And if you don't feel that it is, seek the Lord, because this is what we do. We seek the Lord for. We're asking God. We have spent many of days praying over a kid. And it didn't have to be because something was wrong. Right. Just praying like, God, this is the track they're on. You know, we pray that we're giving them good advice, but God, just order their steps, guide them, guide us, give us wisdom, give us clarity, give us discernment, give us the revelation about, you know, the path that you want them to take, because they're looking to us, you know, as their parents to kind of coach them and support them and speak life into them. And so how do we do that? He said, speak my word, pray for them, talk to them, listen to them, just all of those different things. Sometimes they frustrate us and we frustrate them too. That is not lost on us. Right. So that's not an emotion or feeling that is absent from the Boston household. We go through those things too, and we still do them with the help of God. Right. when we're at our point where we're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What do we do when we're looking at each other? We're like, God, get your daughter, get your son. Yeah. And he's so faithful because we're anointed to parent them.
For sure.
Because the anointing comes from God, whenever we start finding ourselves at a loss for ideas or words, we can always talk to him. What was that? The fan?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Y'all, we had to have the fan on in here because, you know, one, my husband's just so fine and hot and spicy, but we just get so involved in these conversations, it can get a little warm. So if you heard a beat, that's what it was. But yeah, just know that you are anointed to parent your children, and your children are your gift to you. Like, there's nothing that we can't do in the realm of parenting without God. If we can do it together, we can do it. You know, we'll do as much as we can together. Yeah. But for the single parent, it's going to take you and God too.
Yeah.
For the parent who feels like they have not had great examples of parenting, or who have been parenting from a place of trauma or even defeat, just feeling like you're not good enough, or you've made some mistakes and you're a different person now, and you have relationships with your children that you want to repair. You're trying to repair and you don't know where to start. And humbling yourself before that child has not been the easiest, or them softening their heart towards you has not been the easiest. This is where you invite God in. We cannot raise whole entire humans that God created, that are his handiwork. We cannot raise them without him.
That's true.
So I say this just to clear up any misconceptions that we have figured it out. We are not experts. Some of y'all know what I'm going to say next. We are experienced, and we are still experiencing, because for the rest of our kids' life and for the rest of ours, we will always have the assignment of parenting.
Right.
And so we want to do it well. Right.
Yeah, of course. Of course. This is a special episode, you know, just thinking about this. And not to be too hard on ourselves or be hard on you, but I think it's or yourselves, right?
Right.
For y'all not to be hard on yourselves, or even your parents, because I know, you know, there may have been conversations where you may have and say, you know, my parents did the best they could. You know, it's like that for us too. We're doing the best that we can. You know what I mean? You're doing the best that you can. Well, we should be doing the best that we can. Right. We strive to do the best that we can for our kids.
Right.
And try not to feel guilty about things that we're not able to do for them, that we may want to do for them. You know, I think you said this best, you know, some years ago that I really love is, you know, when we were talking about this, as far as, you know, we always think about what we that we want to give our kids the things that we didn't have, right? I want to give them everything that we didn't have when we was younger, you know, when we was kids, you know. Of course, my parents did the best. You know the conversation. Like, I want to give them the best. I want to give them what I didn't have. You know, but you remember you flipping it and saying, let's give them what we did have.
Yeah.
Let's give our children the things that we did have when we were coming up, that helped shape the good things in us, the good parts of us that have made us who we are, that have impacted other people. You know, when you think about, man, who raised me, you know, what did they impart into you? When I think of even just the word raise, like, I think about building up.
Yeah.
Right. Ooh, you think about building up. Who built you up?
Yeah.
Who built you up? Right. Because, you know, you're not being raised if you're being torn down. So we're not talking about those aspects of our lives, of even our childhood and those experiences.
Right.
You know, I want us to focus on the building up. Who raised you up?
Right.
You know, to give you the good.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
That blessed me.
Grateful for that, you know, but accept our children. I got a couple notes here. We want to, you know, we wanted to be accepted, right? You know, we need to accept our children, appreciate them.
I love that.
Affirm them, right?
Yes.
Our children need to know that. But let me back up, because appreciating, my good friend John Coker, I remember him saying this a while back. You know, when you think about appreciation, you add value.
Yes.
Right. So, you know, you're not appreciating someone unless you're adding value to them.
Right.
Right. So people who take away from you,
or undervalue,
who who pull from you and and suck the life out of you, they're not adding value to you. They don't. Those type of relationships aren't people or places that appreciate you, that have add value to you. You know, so we want to make sure that we add value to our children, to our the people, maybe, you know, whether they, you know, your biological children, stepchildren, maybe your nieces and nephews, maybe it's someone that you're just a mentee, you know what I'm saying? Maybe somebody you're mentoring, adding value to them, you know, in a way of appreciating them, and of course affirming them. You know, when you think of the love languages, you know, that some affirmation, words of affirmation is a love language. Find out your children's love language, right? You know what I mean? I know it might seem like some of our children's, all of our children's love languages just, you know, the part where you they like gifts and buy me stuff.
Yes.
You know, which some of them that's a real thing.
But they all like being affirmed.
Yeah, for sure. But understanding their love language too, like taking the time out and saying, hey, you know, because we have a couple of our kids that affirmation language is something that really blesses them, you know, when we affirm them. But all of them need it across the board. Let them know, hey, I see you, I hear you, what you're doing is, you know, it matters. You know, pick them apart a little bit when it comes to that in a good way. Like think about what are your kids doing that is good, that you are proud of, that you are like glad that they're into. And point that out, affirm where they are. Hey, you know, I love how you know, stand up for what you know, believe in. Or I like how you know, spoke up for yourself here. You know, I'm super proud of you about how you know, you stepped up and you chose the classes that you liked, or you say whatever it is, right? Whatever that looks like. Make sure that we are affirming our children, and then ultimately, you know, let's not abandon them. Let's not abandon our children. Make sure that they know that we're there for them. Make sure that they know that they have our listening ear. And even if our kids share something with us that, you know, that we might not be ready to hear or want to hear, you know, just be slow to speak in some of those moments. Even if you have to just say, you know what, I hear you. Let me, you know, just soak it up. And if you have to come back and process it, you know, depending on the degree of what that conversation is, right? Because as we're getting older, and some of your children are getting older, they're growing up, and you think about situations where, you know, you have life situations where, you know, kids may, and I'm not trying to speak anything, but real talking situation where you have a teenager or somebody that's in the early 20s or whatnot, and now they're coming home and they have a love interest, or hey, mama, I got a baby on the way. You know what I mean? There are certain things that, even for us, as we're growing, we're understanding that there will be conversations, or hey, I'm in love with somebody proposed to me, and this is the one, you know. So it's not always but thinking about like being there and being that listening ear. And if that's what you already do, keep that up. Make sure your babies know, no matter how old they are, that you will not abandon them. And I really believe, you know, especially if y'all are listening and y'all talking with us, that y'all feel that way. It's just a reminder, even for us,
absolutely,
to do that. But yeah, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with everything that you were saying, and just being mindful, just to consider our kids, being considerate, because the truth is we will have to give consequences, right? We're gonna have to have hard conversations. They're not gonna like everything that, you know, we have to say about a certain thing, or they're not going to always want the consequences that we give, but they really are a part of the discipline, which is a part of the discipleship. We're teaching and we're training.
That's true.
And our job is not to trust our kids to just have good behavior, or just to not mess up because they, quote unquote, know better. That's not it. We're called to train them. The Bible says, train up a kid, raise up a kid, train up a kid, teach up a kid. All of those things, we are training them. So in the process of training, we trust the process, but we can't trust them to just make good decisions all the time. And so usually we have found that the more involved we are, the more we're listening, the more we have open lines of communication.
Yeah.
Just by sheer proximity, just by our involvement, we've been able to hoard off a lot of behavior.
Yeah.
That could probably slip by us, because there are seasons when we take it for granted, like we're so busy, or we're just trying to work hard, we're trying to pay the bills, and they just ought to appreciate that, and they should. But kids don't always have that sensibility to understand value in that way. That's and true. So what they used to say, well, the cat's away, the mice will play. They still need to know, we're checked in, we're going to ask you questions, we're going to see about you. We may do phone checks. We may want to ask you questions about your friends. Right. We may not be willing to let you go to a sleepover if we just don't feel good about it. Right. Yeah, I spent the night before. They came over here. Well, this time I don't feel comfortable with it. There are still some hard things that have to happen, along the way. And we have to have the confidence to just do what we feel is right in that moment.
That's good.
But like Brandon said, I try to let my kids know we can talk about anything. Absolutely.
That's good, Brandon. Yeah.
They have to know that even if it's a hard conversation. Right. We've had to do that with our kids too, and tell them, even if it's hard, what's the worst I'm going to do? Yes, you might have to hear me lecture you about this. Yes, I may ask you questions that make you uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, what else do you know is true?
Yeah.
That I love you. It's mom, it's dad. Yeah. We're gonna be here for you no matter what.
Yeah.
So don't be a wuss. And even if it's hard, don't be afraid to cat. It's us.
Right. And you're gonna talk about it anyway. Right.
Man.
Like Desiree, the harder conversation, they must happen. You're going to talk about them anyway. Either it's gonna be proactive, or it's gonna be reactively. You're gonna be reacting to after the fact. Yep. Or you're going to be proactive when you see something, because God has anointed you to be parents.
That's right.
Therefore, there's discernment there.
Right.
God is speaking. Yep. There are things that there's this intuition that you just feeling, and you're just like, I need to check their phone, or they don't have a phone. I need to check in on their room. I need to ask them about this friend. I need to ask this friend about themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like you gotta have the conversation. You're going to talk about it anyway.
Right.
You really are.
So do you want to do it before
or after the fact?
Or after. I love that, because I think that's the great perspective that you've actually taught me about, just proactive conversations. We're going to do it anyway. And so let's just say this. Here's the other scenario. Say we have the conversations proactively, and they still do the thing that violates the expectation in our home. And we're still going to have a conversation on the back end. It's all still a part of the teaching and the training. And maybe, just maybe, by the grace of God, it lessens the impact of what they've done. Maybe they don't go as far as they would have without having a conversation at all.
Yeah.
We'll never know. So we just try to do it anyway. Yeah. Right. And not be naive. We're not under any false pretense about our kids. And it's not to make them sound bad, but they're just kids. They're just young people. We think they're amazing. We think the world of them.
Yeah.
But they make mistakes, and they are really mistakes, and they might upset us. We may be disappointed by those mistakes. They may be disappointed in themselves. But these are conversations that, if they're comfortable learning how to face the music with us, when they go out into the world, not only will they understand that there are consequences for actions, that there's accountability,
right?
And that if they don't want to have hard conversations like this, then maybe let's avoid some decisions that would kind of put us on the path of having to stand before a stranger, or in a court of law, or in a police station, or in a principal's office, right? Or in front of our boss over things like this. We're really preparing them for the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's so good. And speaking of that, our sister Jessica, we'll definitely be praying, for your son as he's going off to college. We definitely be praying for y'all. Pop up. Pop up on.
You're always welcome. Go on up there.
Right. But that's the thing, too. It's like they know that kids know when we're worried about them. Our kids know that when we don't trust them. They know, they got a sense of feeling when they know that we may not want them to do something, or not. But the thing about it is, that might not ever change.
Yeah.
Right. It might not ever change.
Right.
And as long as they know, hey, look, mama, mom, this is how mama feel. Look, man, this is how your daddy feel. I love you, and I'm gonna come through, and I'm checking on you.
Yep.
Because at least that's something that they'll be able to tell their friends. Hey, like, I don't know, man. My dad might come through. My mama, man, you just never know. She might pop up. You know, there's limits, you know, that especially as they grow, you know.
Right.
But it's a process and it's a journey that we're still learning too, right? You know what I mean?
Like some kids we're a helicopter for, and some kids we can't. Some kids like we're monitoring, we're still circling the block. When you say you're gonna be somewhere, we're still checking in, and we have some kids that's like, nope. If you said you're gonna go here, just check in with us.
Because
we're just parenting,
right? But for real, we're just parenting. But think about it. I remember having a conversation like this a while back. You know, man. You know, when I think it was, I don't know if it was Symphony or whichever one it was, but letting them know, like, when we want to know where y'all are at, like, it's important for y'all to tell us the truth about stuff.
Please,
you know what I mean? This. Tell us the truth. You know, we've talked to our children about it. I've talked to my students about this, you know, throughout the years. So tell us the truth about where you're at. Like, if we say you can go to this specific place, then we're okay with your being there. And we know that's where you are, because guess what? If I need to get you, if I need to come help you. And that was the big point. I said, if you don't tell us where you are, we cannot help you.
We wouldn't even know where to look.
We wouldn't know where to look. We cannot help you. We can't come get you. If something happens that's out of place, or somebody acts up, or just things don't go your way, whatever it is, if you are hiding from us, then you did not just, you know, hide from us. You hid you hid yourself. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're not just hiding from
what you're doing.
What you're doing. You have hidden yourself in such a way that we can't even help you. You know, and so when I have those conversations, it hits a little different, because it's like, look, you know, if we say you can go, like, evidently you're good. Don't tell me you're going to be here and then you go there. A couple of weeks ago, you know, my son Zion, he's you know, very heavy into sports. You know, that's my guy. Man. He go hard, right? He's a very hard worker. Love his work ethic. When it comes to school, he's doing
his
great.
School ethic, I love
he loves academics, even piano. You know what I mean? Like, he works hard at everything that he does. And he's very communicative, you know, with me. Like, you know, he'll hit me back, texting him. He does these things.
But you got to teach him that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's just one of those things where, hey, you know,
like, you're not responding.
But it was just, it's been natural for him throughout our relationship and throughout him having a phone. But this particular time, he had practice a couple of weeks ago this summer, and you know, I knew where he was, and so after, you know, I noticed that he wasn't on his way back to the house at the time that he usually comes, you know. And so I look, and we all share our location and stuff. So I look and see that he's not at the school. He's not on the football field. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? Okay, so I text him, but at the same time, I'm already in the car, because I'm like, what's going on? You know, these days stuff be crazy, y'all. So as a parent, for me, I'm like, I'm about to at least make a move real quick, you know. So no, that's what it was. I was supposed to pick him up. I was supposed to go get him. So that's one reason too. But I didn't hear from him. I'm up there. He's not there. So I go to the location where he's at. He's at Starbucks. He's at Starbucks across the stadium, across the street from the stadium. So I'm sitting out there at Starbucks. And I'm messaging him. I'm like, hey son, you know, what's going on? So he texts me that, you know, I went to Starbucks with my friends, whatnot. So I'm like, okay. I said, you know, I'm outside. Go ahead and finish up with them. Come on out. You know, and then so he does that, comes out, and his friends, I know all of them, all the boys. So they put their head out the window, like, you know, wave. So he gets in the car, and I say, Zion, what happened, buddy? You know, what's going on? He was like, oh, Dad, I just want to. I said, I get all that. You know, I don't want you to go. I know you want to go with your friends and stuff. I said, but you don't do me like that. Like, you're really good about communicating with me and asking me, you know, if you want to go somewhere else, you know. And I said, I'm grateful that you do that, man. I said, you know, we got that relationship. So I don't know what happened right now. I was worried about you, because you usually, communicate with me
Right.
on this. You know what I'm saying? And so just real like affirming him and like reminding him of our relationship and what we have together, it was a different kind of conversation. And I really felt like it hit different for him in that moment. He was like, he apologized. I'm sorry, Dad, And I was like, no, it's cool, man. I just need to know, let's just keep that going. Let's not switch it up because I want you to be safe. I know your boys, I know where you're at, but bro, like y'all did you cross this highway? Did you cross 380? If y'all from North Dallas, if y'all know about up in this area, Highway 380 and Prosper and Little Elm and all, if y'all know about 380, you know about 380. So he's like, no, we went to the crosswalk and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, like just keep this up. Right. Communicate with me. Don't just move around without letting me know. So like my brother Brandon said, you do gotta be trustworthy. You know what I'm saying? And so it helps. It helps because it's training. We don't trust them right now, but we want to eventually be able to do that as they get older. Right. Our oldest ones as kids,
and
it's
we
just
keep
like
it simple.
Yeah.
For us with our kids, we keep it simple. Bible. Train them up.
Yeah.
That just keeps it simple. It takes all of the responsibility of like putting this expectation on them that they can't meet or us being disappointed. We're training you, so we know you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But that communication, honoring your parents.
Yeah.
And this was one way I felt like you were explaining to him, like, this is how you honor your dad. If I'm asking you to communicate with me before you do things, that's how you can honor me.
Right. And reminding him.
Go ahead.
For sure. No, you're right. It helps me, but also reminding him too that that's how he's been treating me. That's how he's been
affirming that he's done a good job at that.
Keep that
something changed.
Yeah, keep that up because that impacts us in a different way.
Right.
And I forget who I heard this from, y'all. Like a lot of we're not coming up with this stuff. There's some things, but we've learned a lot and we're still learning.
Right.
But I forget who said this, but being curious versus critical. Yes. You know what I mean?
Be curious.
Ask questions, and my good friend Rufus, when we do our when we get a chance to partner with educators and we go and do our trainings and workshops, one of the things when we talk about restorative language and affirmation language, and we're trying to correct and redirect, asking what questions versus asking why. Yeah. Right? What happened? What's going on? And then pause and actually giving them an opportunity to express themselves instead of saying, why you do that? Mm-hmm. Why are you acting up? Why
didn't you text me?
Why did you? Yeah.
Because they're thinking,
right.
I don't know.
It's so much. Yeah. It's almost like you coming for them. And sometimes, we want to come for them, but we want to actually, we want it to be a productive conversation. What we really want is what I need from you is understanding.
Come on, how can we communicate?
If you don't hear what I say.
And you got to ask the right question.
You got to ask the right question. So asking what? Hey, what happened?
Yeah.
What was going on? What kept you from communicating with me?
Right.
What caused you what was going on to make you go there?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where we just be more curious about what's happening in the lives of our kids, because we really want them to know that we care.
Yeah.
And I think when we take a beat ourselves and think of it that way, that helps.
Yeah.
That helps. Right?
Being considerate.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I recall this conversation because I remember him telling me about it and just feeling like that was really wise. That was a clever way, to address that, because he could have just still been in panic mode, after learning where he was, and it could have gotten me to panic. But one thing I've learned, Zion's our third child. We have 4.
Yeah.
And we have 2 adults, and he's 15. So we've had a lot of different experiences and circumstances in which we've learned to not assume willful disobedience right off top. Yeah. There has to, meaning we are willing to give the benefit of the doubt. We have to say, pause and just say, there's got to be an explanation.
Yeah.
And God, we just need the wisdom to get to it in a way that's going to work. And it doesn't mean like, I'm going to get down on my knees and I'm going to pray. It just means like, all right, Lord, as we, on my way, I'm driving to go get them, or I'm getting ready to walk to their room and have this conversation. I just need you to guide it so that we get out of it what we want to get out of it. Because if your goal is just to pull up on them, right, and just yell and be upset and let them know how you feel, well, then do that if that's your goal. But for us, the goal is to really get an understanding and to communicate a bigger value, a bigger message that I care about you. I feel better, and it does honor me when we have the communication and I know where you are, so that I expect you as a parent. It is my job to protect you. I'm not with you all the time, but the way that I can feel safer and more confident in your ability to make good decisions and be mature is through communication. So when you do that, I feel confident that I can at least count on you. Right. I can count on you to do that. So as they're growing, they'll get to a place where, like, man, you've definitely earned my trust. Like, I know that you're going to do this in this situation. So I know without a shadow of a doubt, if there's a moment where I'm supposed to hear from you and I don't, now I can say I'm going to look for you, because something could be wrong, because your pattern is that this is what you do. Right. So it's a bigger message and it's a bigger deal. And we have to be this careful. We have to be this intentional. We have 4 kids, guys. We're completely outnumbered. And we know this.
Yeah.
So we do really have to take moments. If it's no, they're not praying about everything. Yes, but I promise you we are.
Yeah, we got.
I promise you we are. This is not
for show. Now more than ever.
We are. Listen, your kids will have seasons where they're in your heart. Yeah. They'll have seasons where they're on your heart. Yeah. And either way, you give them to God. You sit them at the foot of the cross, and you have. Yeah. And that's
that's good. That's one thing. I remember my mom saying that, like, a few times throughout my life. Like, I done gave you to the Lord. I done turned you over to the Lord. And just and her saying that type of stuff was like making me think, okay, this is bigger than her.
Right.
Already, have a healthy fear of my mother. Like, of course, I love my mother. I want to honor her.
But you honor, you respect her.
Yeah. As a kid, of course, it was, was probably more fear. Definitely love my mom and care for her because she was always there for me. Yeah. But of course, you didn't want to try your mama. You know what I mean? I didn't want to try my mama. You know, even
because of respect.
Now. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of respect and fear and love and also. But anyway, it's a combination of all of that stuff, right? So my mom was an OG. I love her. Yeah. But also making sure that she made sure that I knew that God was in it. Right. God was in it with her. She wasn't parenting us by herself.
That's all we've been trying to say.
We're not parenting us by themselves. Yeah. So when they say honor your parents in the Lord, for this is right. You know what I mean? When I think about the commandments, when I think about, what God says about honoring my parents, and honoring mother and father, and then I look at them, but they also remind me of what God says. It's not just them. It just hits different. It just hits different. Right. And the thing about it is, it was a message I was watching on parenting, too, and one of the things that we do have to realize as parents, we are giving our children roots. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you think about what are your roots? Where you come from? You know what I mean? What are your roots? And so how are we grounding them right now? Yes, right? I like that. How are we grounding our children with the things that they need? Foundation. What's in that soil? What nutrients are we pouring in? What core values? What spiritual values and things are we putting into the lives of our children? So when they grow, they are truly being raised up, and they have vigor because their roots are deep and they're strong, they're healthy. Firm foundation. Yes. So that way, when they grow up, the roots are on point. So the fruit will be on point.
Come on.
You know what
you
I'm
saying? Better. Y'all.
That's.
I can't get up and run around.
Yeah.
That was good.
Awesome. Amen.
That was good. That's a word.
Amen.
That's a word.
Yeah. So
I'm yep.
So we're gonna have to do another part 2. And
I'm gonna have to give him an offering. Yes. Text me your cash app.
I got you. But
so good.
Yeah. Well, if y'all want us to do a part 2 of this, where we can talk about other parenting styles and stuff like that, we didn't get a chance to get to that.
I know.
But
we'll come back.
We'll come back to that. Like, this is something that is good, and we're gonna have to bring some parents on here with us to join us.
I think
that'd be super dope.
I think so.
So we can just have a candid conversation, and y'all can join in. We have some other parents that we love and respect as well.
Yeah.
But it's just,
we're all doing the best we
we
can.
really are. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, our parents did the best they could. I love,
Yes,
I
with
love
what
my
they
mom,
had,
love my
yes.
dad. Like I thank God for their life. Like where I am right now, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am now.
I believe
You know what I'm saying? And so never think that just because you are doing the best you can or your parents did the best they could, that it's like that was the minimum, or like it was just like, you know, they did the best they could, right? And when it really boils down to it, if they really did the best they could, that means that they tried to give you everything that they could for you to have what they had, right?
And even
that means something.
Yes, it does.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And I just want to address the listener who's like, my parents were awful. And that's a real thing. It's a reality.
Lord have mercy.
And even them,
that's real. Jeez.
Even them, they probably didn't have better to give you either.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
If they were terrible at it, if they were harmful, if they were to your detriment, and they just did not have what you needed.
Yeah.
Just think about that. They didn't have what you needed. So even if it didn't feel like the best or good, that could really have been the ceiling of what they had, you know, in the frame of mind that they were in. We know that not every parent was sober, right? Could have had an addiction or was just in a bad place, just in a bad place and just didn't have it. And you're like, they could have done better. Maybe we wish they could have done better. Maybe our prayer, maybe we always held on to the idea, like, I just wish they would have tried harder. And from what you saw, it just did not look like they did. Wow. But even still, trust God that if you are listening today,
that's good,
that there was grace for your life and that God took into account human error. He took into account what we would have and what we would not have. And we know that God still makes beautiful things out of the dust. And so you don't have to parent from pain and hurt and trauma. Use it as fuel, use it as compassion, and
no, you're good, bro. That's good. That's good. Y'all heard that.
I just feel somebody listening that's like, this wasn't me. I didn't have what y'all had.
No, you're absolutely
and it's okay.
Right.
And I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. That's good. Y'all, this is real. This is real, and we pray that it resonates. But if you are a parent, today is the day. If things haven't been going the way you feel like they should have, maybe you feel like, man, you might be failing as a parent. You know, I've been in a place, we've been in a place where, you know, especially me personally, I don't want to put words in your mouth, where I felt like am I really connecting with this baby? You know what I mean? Like connecting. What can I do? I don't see, you know, I don't feel like, you know, am I trying too much? Am I trying too hard? You know, but just don't give up, you know, and I won't give up. I didn't give up, you know, and things shift. And sometimes it's just phases. It's just seasons. We're human.
Phases.
Right. You know what I mean? It's just a phase. And so wherever you are now, however you have been raised that brought you to where you are right now, and you have children, or maybe you don't have children, but the way that you were raised impacted you in any kind of way, you know, be grateful for what you do have, and what you did have, but then also how are you using that to make an impact, a positive impact in your life and in your area of influence as well.
Good.
You know, so we love y'all. We thank y'all so much for joining us.
And we're praying with you.
We're praying with you.
Not just for you, with you.
Right. You know, for your children that are young adults, for your children that are toddlers and babies, newborns, for your stepchildren, your godchildren.
Right.
You know,
and those relationships,
nieces, nephews, the ones that you're pouring into, that you're connecting to. You know, we pray that God gives you wisdom, that He gives you strategy, structure for the season,
Yeah.
and the personalities and the young folks that you are connected to. You know, so just continue
So
to
You're so sweet.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Just continue to be intentional.
Yes.
Think about, when you said this earlier, think about what you want them to have.
Yeah. What do you want for them?
What do you want for them?
Yeah.
What do you want for them?
What do you want for them?
You know what I mean? And do what's necessary to guide that, to take the steps to do that. I remember hearing Bishop Jake say something like, when it comes to making decisions, you know, you do it if it's going to lead you closer to your purpose. You know what I'm saying? So
that's good.
I want to encourage you to,
that's good.
If you know where you want them to go, what you want for them, then you know the decisions that you make will lead you closer to them getting to that. Yes. Right? The decisions will lead you closer to the goal that you want for them. If you want them to have integrity, then the decisions that you make will lead them one step closer to that. If it's a lesson, if it's a conversation. So just take it one step at a time. Be intentional.
That's right.
For us, we pray. So we encourage you. I would encourage you to tap into the greatest
teacher and parent,
the greatest teacher, the greatest father.
Yes. Greatest parent.
And pray and seek God for guidance. Acknowledge him in all your ways and allow him to direct your path. That's going to be the best thing that we can give you. Right. Or share with you.
Right.
So
I love that.
Yeah, but we love y'all, and we appreciate y'all for joining us, for rocking with us.
Yep.
Once again, shout out to everybody that has joined our Facebook group. Feel free to and invite your friends if you feel like this has added value to you, and maybe it'll add value to someone that you know. Share this. Yeah. If you might be watching on Facebook. Shout out to you. Watching on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Subscribe to our YouTube as well. We're looking to just continue to build in that way. No pressure, but we would love for you all to like, subscribe, share, and let you know, let how they say, let the socials know that this is some good, healthy content.
Right.
We truly love each other. I love her as a woman, as a mother, as a leader. You know, as a wife, and I know she loves me the same way. This is real. You know what I mean? So, and we want to spread that. We want to spread that. We know couples, and we see couples that are loving each other and doing the best they can to take care of each other, take care of their families
and parents,
you know, and parents,
single and married,
single and married parents that even empty nesters, that are still doing what they doing what they can to love and nourish and pour into their children and be there as grandparents. And so we see a lot of that, and we see you, and we're praying for you. And we want to continue to grow with you. You know, we're not where we want to be, but we should and where we used to be.
That's right.
For real, for real. You know what I mean?
I love that. That's well said.
Yeah. You know, so thank y'all for rocking with us.
Yep.
We thank God who's able to do this, because, you know, real talk, Lord, we were down to the wire, you know, with what was happening in this space.
Yes, technical stuff. But God,
we made it.
So we're grateful, y'all coming to hang out and talk with the Bostons. Again, we encourage, continue this conversation. Yeah. Those of you who saw the poll or know about the poll, go back into Talking with the Bostons Facebook page, and you can leave some feedback. You can actually tell the people, hey, we voted and they did something with that information. They actually, you know, engaged us in this conversation, and let's continue it. So if there's something that you wanted to share or questions that you still had, take it to the comment section, and let's just keep going from there. And we even think that some of you might have, you know, great things to share with each other, right? We're not the authority on any of this. We just want to create a safe place in a community where we can do that. So we're counting on y'all to do that, and we have your back. Nobody is going to come at you sideways, because they will be blocked. Okay. We are protecting this space.
Yeah.
You know, so it is safe, and we mean what we say, right? We mean what we say. We're going to monitor, and we just kind of want to build with you all and get to know you all better as well. Not just you getting to know us. So we'll see you and the Talking with the Boston Streets. And until next time, I'm gonna be keeping it G next Sunday, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But we will see you next Sunday, 7 p.m. Central, same time, same place, Talking with the Bostons. Have a good night, everyone.
Love y'all.